Suspicious Steve, joined by Raging Ross and Big P in the house. We are the articulate verbose, where the outspoken are, or sorry, the well spoken are outspoken. Today, we are going to posit that Diddy definitely did it. He did all the rape. Not only did he do all the rape, but he most likely videotaped it and did so for the purpose of compromising his victims in order to have power over them in what is a classic honeypot blackmail scheme. We're going to start off this whole theory and why this is a likely possibility that this happened with an anecdotal story from my own life. Back in 1988 in St. Petersburg, Soviet Union, I know someone here, we're in Ottawa, Canada, who was with the Foreign Service, who had their own run-in with the secret service known as the KGB. And the KGB in 88 sent up a beautiful young woman who tried to seduce and lead this individual into a situation which no doubt would have been a compromising situation. They would have tempted this man to cheat on their spouse and then, videotape the whole thing in what is known as a honeypot situation. And the woman from the KGB those services was known as a swallow. So this was all confirmed that this is what happened. The individual did not take the bait and that they did not go into the room where they would have been recorded and compromised. And, if you're like a low level foreign service person, you would, have like something extracted from you for this information so you wouldn't be embarrassed to your family kind of thing. But, if you're like at a higher level, then, these agencies that do these sort of games would, they would expect more and they would get more out of you. That's how this game is played. It's just is. And so a lot of people accept in the world that these games are played and that, intelligence agencies play these sort of games. And we're going to discuss, why, how the general public has waken up to these sort of realities and is disgusted by these, you know, um, salacious acts and ways of behaving, and they're fed up and they want to know the truth and they want to not have this kind of behavior be rampant in their society, but it's become very rampant. The idea of putting someone in a compromised situation and blackmailing them is with the advent of social media and smaller cameras in the last 20 years, it's become a lot easier for the common Joe, even someone with moderate needs, to work out these kind of games and have these sort of blackmail operations. It's not exclusively the purview of sophisticated intelligence agencies and operatives with resources and time and skill on their hand. Any gang of ne'er do wells can do this type of thing. I know for a fact here in Ottawa that these operations exist from my own personal experience. People are trying to get you in trouble like this sort of way. That's the subject for another podcast. But I wanted to start off with this anecdotal story to illustrate to our audience, anyone listening, that I know for a fact that these things happen in life because it's happened to someone I know. And it's, and on a smaller level, not that I know of intelligence operation, but it could be just ne'er-do-wells or sadistic, voyeuristic exhibitionists could be have tried to lure me into such games, trying to compromise you and to make you do things to be a part of their sexy cult. So do these things happen? They do. They happen more often than people appreciate, and I think this whole scandal with Diddy has brought this reality to light, to the surface, which was part of the underbelly of society, the dark quarters where operatives and agents and people that are compromisable, like healthy targets, all sort of operated. This sort of thing that we're talking about was sort of relegated to certain areas of society, but now has become more widespread and now is more widely known about it. And people are catching on to these games, and I think people are repulsed at these realities. So let's talk about the concept that who we're going to talk about now. Bieber. Let's take a little moment here to hear from a friend of ours. One second here. I queued up the audio clip here. Talking about Justin Bieber. That's who we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. Okay, we're talking about Justin Bieber, as Alex Jones um, said in my favorite Alex Jones clip ever. Magellan is a lot cooler than Justin Bieber. And yes, we are talking about Bieber, Mr. Jones. Somehow, full circle, all these years later, he has become relevant again. Not, we're not talking about him because we're vapid and interested in his art or the culture that he's a part of, but that he's a victim of the culture that he is entrenched in and a part of creating. And is he Sean Puff P Diddy's victim? This seems to be something that people are positing. We made our first part one of this discussion about P Diddy and these situations on a more satirical perspective on Saturday, saying Diddy didn't do it. I'd like to think that there's definitely some people out there that just like to get really high and have a really good time. And if they're having these sort of sexy parties and people are getting involved in all sorts of crazy shit, like that's normal to me. I don't see anything wrong with that. Where it crosses the line is if the guy's working for the CIA and videotaping people, blackmailing people, and ruining people's lives, and people are getting killed, and people are, being damaged because of these activities mentally and physically, then you're dealing with a kind of evil that none of us want to have, you know, um, percolating in our society. So I'm going to pass off to you, Raging Ross. Do you have any thoughts about what's been said?
About what you're talking about, yeah, I mean, you're right when you say that. Not that this proves that it happened or not, but I mean, for those people that would sort of dismiss this kind of thing as like somehow impossible, that is to say, like the possibility that Sean Combs was actually blackmailing people with this stuff, and then he might have been working for the state in some manner or another as like an informant or a blackmail operation. You can think back to like the earliest literature that we have, like the story of Samson and Delilah, right, where Delilah is sent to compromise Samson and find out what his weakness is, and she's a Philistine woman sent to figure out his weakness basically by sort of seducing him, right? And you have a similar story, the Epic of Gilgamesh, in which the sort of wild man character, Enkidu, I think is his name, or Enkidu, or however you pronounce it, he is made vulnerable by a prostitute being sent to him who robs him of his ability to commune with animals, if I recall, right? So even very early stories have this idea of like the kind of a honeypot or whatever you would call it, right? So definitely it's something that's been with mankind for a very long time. So I'm certainly backing you up on that for sure.
Yeah. And there's been more information that's come to light that sort of paints P Diddy in a bad picture, like what happened with Kim Porter, his ex.
Mm-hmm.
Was she his ex-wife or assistant or something?
I think that they had I believe three children together, but I don't think they were ever officially married. But effectively, yeah, it's fair to call her his wife or common law wife or what have you. But
It said that she found
uh,
some tapes of his that were him having sex with an 18-year-old household name pop star, which people are kind of putting together was Bieber. This is
yeah, I guess people are assuming that now. This information, it's important to point out, comes from a so-called diary of Kim Porter, which we don't know for sure if it is legitimately what she actually wrote, or if this is the publisher who put it forward. If it's just his own creation and he's exploiting her death in this way, right? Because you have different people saying different things when it comes to that. So it's very possible it could be real, but I suppose it's also something we should take with a grain of skepticism as well, right? But yeah, if that is the case that it is real, then who's the famous 18-year-old pop star, right? It's reasonable to assume it could be Bieber. Yeah.
There are many videos of them together, of course. And I think I said in another recording long ago, maybe we never posted it. We know that this man must be guilty because he has far too many aliases for a normal man. And that just seems questionable. And what is Puff Daddy anyway? I mean, let's think about this name. Is this some sort of weed joke? Puff Daddy.
I'm sure there is some explanation that if we were to do a cursory Google search, we would
And
find why he is called Puff
what
Daddy.
about Sean Combs? What
Well,
is,
that's his real name,
well, yeah, is it?
I
What
think.
do you, if you're combing somebody, what's another word you might use?
Grooming.
Okay, just running with this. It's always in the name. The proof's in the pudding, and there's a lot to be said here. I think these videos with Bieber. Of course, this is a lot of it's based on the evidence of these strange videos with Bieber, the 48,
Mm-hmm.
the 48
Buck
hours
wild. They're gonna go
because
buck wild with a
Buck
15-year-old.
Buck Wild. And what does Justin say? I want to go get some girls. And what does
Yeah.
Puff Daddy say to that? Oh, yeah, like we can't disclose what we're going to be up to, but I'm your legal guardian
Oh yeah, that's a
for
good point.
48
Oh,
hours, he says. Now, if you go read Steven Tyler's book from Aerosmith, he gets with some marries a teenager when he's an adult and tells you this in his book. I think it's in Walk This Way, the Aerosmith biography, Joe Perry and Steven Tyler's biography, anyway. Where Steven Tyler tells you, oh yeah, I was a legal guardian of some girl, and that means I'm allowed to marry her, and that's okay or something. He marries an underage girl. I'm pretty sure Iggy Pop says something
that
similar.
all seems to check out just fine.
Yeah, of course, because it's much better if you're the legal guardian. That makes it even
Yeah,
better. It seems
yeah,
like
but Your Honor, you're questioning why? How old was the girl? 14.
something like that. And Iggy Pop does something similar, and then he talks about it in
All
songs.
right, whatever.
And
Yeah, you wait, Your Honor. It's all right for me to marry this 14-year-old girl. Well, why is that, sir? It seems outrageous to me. Oh, because I'm effectively her adoptive parent. Oh,
and
well,
then
then that, as you know, the law says that makes it more okay.
then more okay to diddle when you're the parent. That seems like some sort of
Incidentally, the reason his name is Puff Daddy, for anyone who doesn't know, I guess, is apparently in high school he had a habit of pushing out his chest, puffing up his chest to make it look bigger.
oh yeah. And why daddy?
Uh, um, because he has many children.
Because he's into DDLG or whatever it's called. What is it? Is that? Did I get it right?
Probably DDLB.
Daddy Dom, little girl.
Is that it? DDLG.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe, or maybe it's DDLB in this
I
case.
just
I
said
think.
Dude, Daddy Dom, little
I
boys.
think
Yeah.
that's probably more what we're seeing here. And his littles or whatever, these disgusting terms they use. Littles.
All right. Well, I don't know about any of that. Let's so
Well, these are the kind of perversions that are out there, and if you fall into these things, as you're saying, you open yourself. This is the whole idea of the untouchables, right? That you can hire police who are uncompromisable. You can't buy them, and you can't blackmail them. And if you
mm,
want to be safe in this society, you're better to live like a boring man, like Mike Pence, who I don't care for as a politician, but they attacked this man when he said he wouldn't eat dinner with a woman who isn't his wife unless he's in like a group setting. And this is supposed to be bad. No, the guy's
well, they would be attacking him because that would mean,
yeah,
assuming he hasn't been compromised, it means,
get him.
it's best to shame someone so that their behavior becomes compromisable because then they become
Unfortunately,
more easy to
in
control.
the case of Mike Pence, you didn't have to blackmail him. You could also bribe people, and I believe he's one of the many who probably took money from various organizations that allowed him to be bought. So you didn't have to really blackmail him. So, but
APAC, perhaps.
well, I didn't say any names,
Well,
but
I was gonna touch on the subject that, like the idea, like we just delved into the esoteric side of things, which would, allude to like a sort of evil, an underlying evil that's at play, at influencing the setting here, setting the table. All of these acts, whether it's the KGB sending a young woman to seduce someone, to compromise this person, to end up blackmailing them, whether it's Epstein, whether it's Diddy, whether it's Israel blowing up 3,000 people with pagers, any of these actions that are taken from intelligence services that do these awful acts of sinful things. None of these come from a good place. They may reap the rewards of the consequences that come from these actions, so that they may benefit to get like a one up on their enemy and whatever the situations that I just forementioned. But at some point, the devil whispered in someone's ear and said, "Yes, you should blow up a few thousand people with pagers." The devil whispered in some Russian's ear and said, "Yes, we should use these young women to seduce our foreign dignitaries and see if we could get something from them." The devil whispered in Epstein's ear and said, "Yes, you should impregnate all these women to spread your genes on a breeding farm, Rancho Relaxo, or whatever the fuck it was called. Oh, Diddy, you should sodomize young artists and other young rappers, and then blackmail them and control people through sex slave, sort of Aleister Crowley level sex magic." At some point, the devil whispered in someone's ear, made these people do these things. And it's the old argument, at what point is the devil influencing people's behaviors and actions, and we're all falling into this trap, we're all victims of the devil. What part of it is free? How does our free will combat these forces of evil? Because they're clearly all acts of evil. That's the one common denominator that we can see here, that, as we've pointed out, are all being perpetrated by intelligence operatives and intelligence agencies. So that to me is an underlying factor in this story, the theme, an overall underlying theme and moral of the lesson of what's happened here, what everyone can learn from what we've learned about Epstein, Diddy, and how governments and people in power behave. They're behaving badly, and I think for a long time, maybe it didn't come to the surface. People didn't know about these things, so there wasn't a lot of pushback against this sort of awful realities in our world. The world's elite, the being influenced by Satan, behaving poorly. Now people are fed up with it as they learn more about Epstein and Diddy and people like this. And there's good and then there's evil. And if Diddy is really guilty, that he does face justice from the Department of Justice, because then that sends a message to the other would-be pedophiles, if he is that a pedophile, or at least a message to anyone that's taking advantage of people. This sort of behavior needs to be shunned and looked down upon, so that it becomes less common and people start behaving better towards each other. That's, I think, where we want to go with this knowledge.
Yeah, this is looking up the word concupiscence. Perhaps something like that. The nature of our hearts to long for doing bad, particularly sexual bad, often, but any kind of bad. These kind of desires that pop up. But how much of where do these desires come from? Obviously, our fallen nature for Christians out there, but it can also, can we be tempted? Can we hear the voice, as Eve did, of the serpent whispering in our ears, who lures us into this? How much of it is our own free will? And the best thing is to often avoid the near occasions of sin, you might say, the things that, because it's hard once you're there, once you're close to the fire, the warmth gets you. But if you don't go near the fire, you never feel the warmth, that draw in the first place. So if you kind of keep away from that, keep away, because it'd be hard to go to one of these sexy parties. Doesn't matter how morally upright you are. and see the things going on in there and not,
Freak off, freak on.
yeah, not feel something. And maybe you drink a beer and it's just a beer. Then you
Sure,
go,
you could
you
be
go
given a
and drink two
spiked
beers.
drink, even if you're attempting to be reserved or in control. You can always be slipped a Mickey or given some
So
kind of
the
drug, and then
DMT,
next thing you know, you wake up next to a goat and a
you got it. You don't know what's in those drinks,
yeah.
and even without that, though, it's not hard to say, well, I'm having fun here. I'm having a good conversation with somebody who's totally innocent. I'm gonna have a second beer, and that's a third and a fourth, and we've all been there. I'm sure at some point where, yeah, and then once you're on five, six, seven, who knows? What else might you do? Maybe you'll hit up someone that, hey, this powder's great.
And then you wake up with a sore ass and you go, did P. Diddy fuck me?
Yeah, 72 hours later.
Yeah.
The day, and then
Some people might
Yeah.
not even be too upset. They might go walk away and be like, yeah, P. Diddy fucked me. Like in this celebrity culture that
yeah,
could be taken as a badge of honor. I don't know. But I guess one of the things that's been posited by one video I was watching, Man in America, was pointed out some of the evidence that hip hop conspiracy, that there was a CIA agent, a man named Liar Cohen, apparently has been named as one of the people that is a part of this victimization of the Black community and the rap music industry that's meant to socially engineer Black culture to keep them down, Black individuals and community at large. Is this above and beyond belief? Absolutely not. We all know about, was it, Barry Seal. We all know about Rick Ross and crack and the CIA's involvement of smuggling the cocaine in with the Contra scandal and getting California and then the world addicted to crack. And it's the start of the Black communities, and they were the people that overall that took the brunt of this wave of new drug that was too powerful and was definitely a mechanism of social engineering and social control. It was not to anyone's benefit, this whole crack. And we all know that the CIA was 100% behind that, and are guilty of putting a number of young people in jail. This is also part of the conspiracy that Ice Cube would talk about. Ice Cube has come out and said that the hip hop industry is meant to keep Black gentlemen in jail so that the same people that own the record labels, are the same people that own the prisons, in Ice Cube's estimation and his perception. And so therefore they directly benefit from the negativity, the bad culture, the gangster chic lifestyle that's going to lead young Black men to make bad decisions, hasty decisions based on ego and don't step on my shoe, and you stole my bitch. And, I'm selling all the crack in this joint. And, people are going to get in trouble, act a fool, and their jails are going to be full of young Black men in no time when you put this combination of sex, drugs, and ego. So, is there a conspiracy to fuck over the Black American? Yeah, more than fucking likely. Okay. And I mean, that even I think most anyone from any side of the paradigm, left or right, could agree with that. It's people, we don't like to uh, I don't like to kind of focus in too much on victimization culture, but you just gotta see it with your own eyes that, like, this Diddy situation, if he's really one of the main handlers of all these young Black artists or up and coming people, like back in the day Bieber and all these other people, if he has such an effect on their lives by controlling them through controlling their behavior. This is a bad thing, and people need to put a stop to this sort of behavior in our society so that we can all start treating each other better and then living a better life.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying there about gangster rap being like perhaps a purposefully like toxic force injected into the Black community, I guess primarily by the system. I remember once watching like a video explaining how what they call black exploitation cinema. I don't know how familiar people are with that still, but in the 1970s, there's like a huge boom of these sort of, I guess you would call them kind of crime films, sort of maybe like kind of hard boiled detective, often films. Shaft being the most famous one, right? Shaft, but Superfly being another, right? Um, and these films, we look back at them now and they're kind of hokey and kind of funny, but like some of the early ones, they promoted kind of the pimp lifestyle and the criminal lifestyle, and you could argue that they kind of promoted the notion that it's like that's how you kind of get out of the ghetto or gain respect or what have you, is by engaging in crime, right? And like kind of what I guess we call socially destructive behavior, like pimps and prostitution and that kind of thing, right? And these films were actually if you listen to some of the gangster rappers, were actually influential on some of them, like Snoop Dogg and people like that, right? And they kind of glorified the pimping lifestyle. And yeah, I saw a video once in which I believe it was E. Michael Jones was the speaker, and he was sort of enumerating how many of these early films were I think it was like a fellow who was a an FBI informant, like a prominent FBI informant, worked on, I believe, Superfly and maybe Shaft, I think, right? And so there was some suggestion that these were put out there to kind of damage the black community in that way, right? By sort of glorifying crime, right? And of course, when you have a lot of organized crime, that's always a sort of a touch point for like government agencies too, right? Like how they work with like the mafia, and things like that, right? So it makes sense that they'd want to encourage that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just looking up the last name Cohen and what does it mean? Liar Cohen. I mean,
Would it mean he's a lying
priest.
member of the priesthood,
Yeah,
of the
exactly. Right.
Levitical
A
priesthood, I guess, or
lying
something?
priest. And like, because they're doing weird rituals, these people, all this stuff is that's why they kill people in the music industry and all this kind of the 27 Club and whatever, Tupac, whatever it is, right? There's lots of them who've been killed. Tupac.
Of course, P. Diddy himself has been by some tied to the murder or assassination, if you will, of Tupac.
Yeah.
I think through a fellow who was like his assistant or something.
Look, the guy. Listen, the guy has been around.
Keith D, I think his name is.
Okay, we all known this guy like all our lives, Puff Daddy. Okay, like since like the mid 90s or something. I can't really remember a time not knowing his name. How many songs can I name of this idiot? Like he did that one, that terrible Godzilla movie with like Jimmy Page or something, where they use like Kashmir. Do you remember that? And then like, what's it all about the Benjamins?
I remember him doing like kind of like a bad
Jungle
remake, if you want to call it that, of Grandmaster Flash's was it The Message? It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. I think P. Diddy did some kind of like
But he
remix of that or
changed it.
something.
He changed it. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder why they try to take us under. He turns it into I wonder who he means by they. It's going to be turned into antagonistic. The other one is more of a accountability, how I keep from going under, right? It's on.
Yeah, or is by switching it to they try to take us under it, it removes personal responsibility. One could
And
make the
we
argument.
just were reading a letter before this, or listening to a letter before this from somebody in the music industry, some sort of producer, saying they attended a meeting in 1990 or 91 where they were talking about like the direction of hip hop and where it was supposed to go, and saying that they were going to take it in this negative direction, just like Ice T was saying as well, right? Ice Cube, sorry, yeah, to get people into
Ice Cube.
you get my ices confused. So Ice Cube saying this right. He's an anti.
He's based. He's a good man.
He's an anti V man.
He's a good
right?
man. He avoided the poison shot and turned down money to not
That's
poison
right.
shot, which means he's one of us. Google goggle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah,
your blood.
Yeah. So one of our boys here. That's great. Ice Cube pointing this out. That it's used to get people incarcerated, all the stuff we were just saying. So this producer was commenting on this as well, kind of tying that all together. I forgot where I started with this. What was I saying?
Oh, the discussion about the CIA wanted to corrupt the music business.
Right. Well, like obviously, there's something to these intelligence agencies and the music and the film industry. This is nothing new. A lot of people have covered this. Even that movie Argo, come on, they demonstrate it for you in the movie. They show you, oh yeah, yeah, we're going to use the Hollywood to get these people free from Iran or whatever. So they'll let us know. Oh, and the black exploitation, right, with CIA involvement in that to corrupt the black community, basically. And yeah, of course they're doing this. Like, what do you want?
Yeah, and how that ties into maybe E. Michael Jones's book,
Oh yeah, and libido dominandi, right? I mean, if
which has
you,
been a topic of popular conversation. Candace Owens has brought this up recently in the book. I guess she's a newfound fan of E. Michael Jones, so she's been very critical of the tribe of Israel lately. This is a book that talks about controlling people through their behavior, right?
yeah,
That's right. Yeah, it's I think the full title of it is like libido dominandi, sexual liberation as a form of political control, right? And he quotes from I think it's Saint Augustine. It's something to the effect of a man has as many masters as he has vices, and
Mhm.
that's the idea, like what we're talking about here, right? That the more weak points you have, the more vices you have, be it sexual excess or some other things, the more weak points you have that people can use to control you or blackmail you or that sort of thing, right? So
And
the idea that and sort of central actually to the book is this story where was it in Ramallah? Where was it in that
It's not even in there.
Israel like took over? Hmm?
Like I said, I think he just added it to the second edition. He never even got it in the first edition. But yeah, that
Yeah, well, I guess that's what we're talking about is the second edition of this book. But what's the story where Israel took over a TV station? Was it in Palestine
yeah,
or
made the
where was it
Milwaukee.
in?
story. Well, yeah,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
we
yeah. This
should.
story has made the rounds a couple places, but
I
yeah,
won't,
it's
I won't open up the Ottawa Citizen article on wonderful Ottawa resident Solomon Friedman, a man of the cloth himself
Pornhub.
and owner of Pornhub. And that if you go read that Ottawa Citizen article from, I think, March 2023, you'll see that he discusses the technology behind Pornhub.
Yes, the more interesting aspect of the technology, which is the data collection aspect.
Yeah, he puts this in a very polite and civil manner, but he's like, promoting porn is just one thing. It's really like the awesome technology behind this stuff that is far more interesting. So don't watch the Pornhub.
And probably don't want to be on FetLife. FetLife, another person of the tribe who created this wonderful site where people could sin and be led by the devil from Montreal.
Montreal
So,
based.
Canada here, we are like the epicenter of the New World Order. Where this country is really the New World Order's bitch, quite frankly. And so these kind of activities, the sex cults, the you know people being led around by their vices, as many vices as as Augustine was saying. This is kind of how this is how a lot of this happens in Canada. This happens worldwide. This sort of manipulation, this sort of social engineering is quite prevalent, and we're living right here in the epicenter of some of the biggest offenders. Pornhub here in Ottawa, where we're from, in Montreal, an hour and a half away, is we're in Sodom and Gomorrah right here in Ottawa, Canada. Yeah,
that may very well be true.
it definitely is. So, in closing, Ross or Paul, do you have any closing remarks that we could leave our listeners with?
If you keep yourself away from these sinful activities, you'll live a better life. Sin's in practical living. And it's not just like some sort of vague theological concept or whatever. It has a real implications in your life. The more you avoid it, you can be like an untouchable. You can't be corrupted, just like Mike Pence, or certainly it's harder to corrupt you. Don't take the bribe money. Pence failed on that. He avoided the sin, the lust, but he fell for the greed and took the bribe money. So you got to fight those seven deadly sins, or they're coming at you from all sides. They'll find a way in.
And it's pretty easy for the devil to get his silver fork tongue in your ear and ear skull fuck you, because we all love what the devil's got to say when you're having a good time. He's telling you just do it. Yeah, fucking take out those bottles of baby oil like P. Diddy wants and just fucking rub it all over and get freak off. Just freak off all over the place. Like we've all been there, okay? As I said, we live in Ottawa where Pornhub is from, and Fat Life from Montreal. Like none of us here are strangers to the whole BDSM community or like hypersexual um poly play scene, shall we call it?
Let's not forget Ashley Madison and the controversy
Oh,
of the
Ashley
city.
Madison. That's
Apparently,
the
20% of the city was on.
20% of the city is cheating on each other here in Ottawa. This is according to the stats of Ashley Madison, the world's #1 affairs website. So we live in like the area where these kind of activities are rampant. We've been told here in Ottawa that if you want to be a certain level of government, if you want to succeed, you have to be part of the satanic cult. This is coming from another person that will remain anonymous that I know. This is a personal anecdotal story in my life. I know for a fact that people of the highest rank in government have said, from one degree of separation from me, that if you're going to make it in this town, you have to be part of the satanic cult. And where does the satanic cult thrive? Where do the feeder communities? FetLife is one of the feeder communities. That's where you get into these kind of activities, these kind of scenes, these kind of parties, this kind of sinning, and then the devil makes you his bitch. The devil dances you around like a puppet, and you love it. And of course, because the devil's all about having a good time, but then it's going to lead you down to these roads of trouble where the fun that you're having is not fun enough. And then you decide you might want to fuck an 18-year-old pop star in the ass, such as Bieber, poor Bieber, So like this is the slippery
Allegedly.
allegedly, but the slippery slope is a concept for a reason because once you go down that ski hill, you're not gonna slow down. You might crash and end up hurt. So this, I think, these behaviors that are so prevalent in our society, the sinning, the availability of sinning, the devil whispering in all of our ears to do these things that it's okay. I think a lot of people are having a spiritual revolution. They're trying to move away from this sort of rampant behavior. And that's probably the best way you can protect yourself from getting hurt by these ready evil, the readily evil available sins that we can all partake in. You have to do something to protect your spirit and soul from these things, and maybe acknowledging that this is a spiritual conflict more than just the simple man against man, and intelligence operatives trying to trick people into doing things to make them get what they want. It's at some point somewhere the devil whispered in someone's ear and said, let's do this bad deed, and we all suffer for it. So
stay away from Riley Reid and instead really read the Bible.
Yeah, there you go. And then really read the Bible. Yeah. No offense to Riley Reid. You seem hot.
No.
But maybe read the Bible, Riley, and help yourself out, rather than put those OnlyFans videos out, Might not get you 500,000 a month to read the Bible, but if she does it, she might get a lot of people watching her. Who knows? That might be great. Saint Mary of Egypt. There you go. She can follow in her footsteps. There's people to follow who lived a similar life. Well, let's wrap it up and say, like Candace says, Christ is King. We'll leave it at that.
If anyone has any comments or has anything they'd like to say about what we've talked about, we're going to leave it off and just posit that Diddy definitely did it. And that will be the title of the second part of this conversation about P. Diddy. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We are out.